So this one's gonna definitely be a treat for you because Alpha just released their 3000 watt inverter, and you've been waiting a long time for this one because I guess it's been a year or two back they released the 1500 watt, and everybody loved that inverter, and so they've come out with the 3000 watt, but hey, it's a little different. This one's the 24 volt. And so this will be my very first 24 volt inverter I've ever dealt with. I know some of you guys were saying, hey, you know, you need to review some 24 volt stuff on your channel. And, you know, the reason I hadn't is just simply because, you know, it's just not something that, you know, I was used to. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and get into the unboxing of this. And pretty much it looks like the same as the 1500 watt inverter that they had, but just a little longer. And it comes with this little instruction paper. That's all you get. It's one sheet of paper. It tells you everything. And to be honest, I've not even looked in it. I grabbed the paperwork out of there and looked through that, but I hadn't even pulled it out of the box until right now. But so that's what you get, guys. Didn't come with any wiring and none of that. So that's, I mean, I personally would prefer them to build a better inverter and let you buy your own wires, because half the time they're never big enough. So I always have to bitch at them and say, hey, you guys need to include some better wires. And you can see it is a spitting image of the 1500 watt inverter. It is just a few inches longer this way, but it is the same width. And it honestly, it looks like it's very similar build on the ends here as to the same inverter, because you've got these little nylon terminal. Wow, that one's on there. I might have to get the pliers for that one. You can see you got your two AC outlets here on the bottom. You got your two displays. You got your toggle switch. Right here, you've got a USB-A quick charge. And then right here beside it, you've got a power delivery 3.0. So I just wanted to show that the case all the way around, even on the bottom, and even on the sides, is all aluminum. Usually, you know, a lot of times the cases will be aluminum on the top and sides, and the bottom might be steel, or, you know, the top and sides might be aluminum, and the ends, you know, are usually steel. But this one here, it's all aluminum. All right, so I wanted to get you guys a measurement. The way that I'm going to do my measurement is right here on the bottom. You've got the little leg that kicks out to mount it, and so I'm going to measure from the very edge over here to the edge of the terminals, and I'm going to give you an exact measurement because sometimes the measurements on Amazon are wrong. And this one here, right to the edge of the terminals, is about 15 and 7/8, you know, and that's with the terminal unscrewed out just a little bit. This way here, 5 and 7/8. And then as far as your height goes, we'll measure it 3.5 inches high. So on the Amazon listing, it says that this thing weighs 9.37 pounds, but I wanted to get you guys a weight on it. And this one says 8.4 pounds. So that's it's a little bit off, but this scale is usually right on the money. So now, one of the things that I've seen on this Amazon listing for this 3000 watt inverter that impressed me was, it says right here, if you look in the About Me section, it shows right there, excellent service, which I can say that they do provide excellent service. If you email them, they do get back to you. They provide a 60-month warranty for each item. A 60-month warranty? I don't see how that they can provide a 60-month warranty on an inverter like that. This thing only costs $296.92 right now. This thing just actually come on Amazon probably like less than a week ago. So that's pretty crazy that they can offer that much of an inverter for that price and with that kind of warranty. Now, I ain't gonna lie, some of the inverters that I've tested, you know, I've seen some 3000 watt inverters for around $200, $220. I mean, you guys have seen me test them on this channel before, but they didn't have that kind of warranty. Before I go ahead and hook everything up, I just wanted to show you when I pulled the terminals off. And yes, I did have to use a pair of pliers, so the Chinese Samson that's over there tightening these things up, take it a little easy on me next time. Don't tighten them up so tight. But I put a pair of pliers on there and finally got them off. And I gotta say, the stud on these is pretty big. I like it because it's an M8, and I use this Man Ram nut and bolt checker, and you can see it's a M8 by 125. You know, I hate it when, you know, inverter companies try to use like an M6. You know, it's just too small. I hate it. You know, I wish they would do the same, you know, as on the batteries. So Alpha, I do give you credit for making the studs there, M8s. And I do like these little nuts with nylon or plastic or something on the outside. You don't have to have a tool to tighten them up. You just tighten them up with your hands. They've got these little grips there on there so you can tighten it up. Now next, we are going to hook the battery up. I've got two 24-volt batteries, and we're going to hook them up in parallel. And so when you hook them up in parallel, the voltage stays the same. You hook them up in series, you change the voltage. You know, I've got two 24 volts hooked in parallel. For the wiring, we're going to be using just some little jumper wires that I got from Alpha. Gosh, I can't remember the gauge on them. I'll put it in the description. But I'm going to be using the Alpha wires that you can buy from them separately to be the jumper wires, and then the wires that's going to be hooking from the batteries to the inverter is I'm going to be using the new concepts. And again, the reason I always use these, and I know what you're going to say, yeah, you don't always need bigger wire on a 24 volt system. These here are just what I already have made up, and since it's a 3,000 watt inverter, this would probably be, you know, about the size that I would use. The reason I use the new concepts wires is there's 5,145 strands of oxygen-free copper wiring, and they're tinned, so they won't oxidize inside that sleeve if they're around moisture or any of that. And I know a lot of guys use these for car audio and for marine grade, you know, applications and stuff like that. But I love new concepts. All right, guys. So I went back and looked up these Alpha wires right here for you guys. So in case you wanted to use them too, that way I can just put them down below in the description. Because they are pretty nice wires. But before I do that, I wanted to show you where I went here and looked it up already. And I went to the inverter store, and it says we recommend 4 AWG cable for our 3,000 watt 24 volt inverters. So there you go, guys. That's what they recommend. And then over here on Amazon, you can see right here. Now, when I searched Alpha for the inverters, I couldn't pull the wires up. So I had to go back and look up Alpha and then search the wires that look like it, and I finally found them. They were the first ones that pulled up. But the ones that I'm using right here are 2 gauge, and they're 1 foot per cable. So if you're interested in those, they're 1 foot, and they're $15.99. So that's not bad. You get 1 positive and 1 negative for $15.99. Now they also sell it in a 2 foot for $24.65 and a 3 foot for $35. But again, with these 2 batteries here joined like they are, I'm only using 1 foot. So that's why I'm recommending these to you, because if you don't like crimping wires and all that, then these will be good. I've used them many times in my testing. All right, guys, so before you make your final connection on the batteries or the inverter, you know, make sure that you use a resistor. And what this does is it basically just charges these capacitors that's in the inverter, so that way when you make that final connection, you're not going to get any kind of spark and blow the capacitors out of here. Now, some people do this, some people don't, but you know, my rule of thumb is it's better just to go ahead and use a little cheap resistor than to risk damaging the capacitors in an inverter. So, you know, I always use it. Now, if you're in a pinch, you can always use like a lead pencil, sharpen it on both sides, and that could be your resistor. But you know, keep in mind, you know, just be careful. You know, once you start getting up there in those higher voltages, because you know it can really shock you and hurt you pretty bad. So you know, be careful if you're using a pencil or something like that. At least with these right here, you can hold them on the insulator in the middle and touch them, the wire to the terminal, and charge that capacitor this way, or charge it down here by touching the wire to this and then touching it to the terminal whichever way you want to do it. Sometimes I do it either way, but I just wanted to make mention of this. These are like $10 for 5 of them. Come in a little case. You probably won't never use 5. You only need 1, but you know, that's the way I found them on Amazon. So I'll put a link in the description if you want them. Also, I wanted to show you the batteries here that I'm going to be using. Like I said, these are going to be going in parallel, and these here are the XZNY batteries. And these are 100 amp hour each, and they're lithium iron phosphate. If you're interested in these batteries, you can see again right there, there's your specs and all that. All right, guys, so I just want to let you guys know that this inverter here is a low standby current. It uses 0.26 amps. Let me bat like that for you. Now it's went up a little bit since I'm over here messing with it, but like a second ago it was at 0.26. It's went up just a little bit. It's fluctuating just a little bit. But again, this is just your idle current. There's 0.26 after it starts resting, and then it jumps up just a little. But at 0.26, you can punch it in on rapid tables right here. That's what I use, is rapid tables. I do direct current, 0.26 amps at 24 volts, and that equals 6.24 watts. At 6.24 watts, guys, that's really freaking low standby current. So if you've got, you know, something that you want to, you know, if you, let's just say you want to leave the inverter on and you leave it on overnight, it's not going to, you know, use a lot of power and run your battery bank down. You know, where other inverters, you know, this size, you're going to use probably 10, 12, 15 watts of power depending on how good they are. You know, so that's one thing about this one. It's using very little wattage to just sit there and be turned on. So before I check the sine wave, I just wanted to turn it on and show you guys what it looks like when you turn it on. There's your toggle switch there. Makes a little alert when you turn it on, and then it does like a little fan test, just like a little surge, and then turns back off. And then right here, this is your 110 volts, and that is your AC output. And then over here, it's 27 volts, 27.1 volts, and that's your input from your batteries, your DC input. And then down here, it says your amps. You've got a green light that turns on right there. I want to go ahead and plug in this little jumper that I use. It's just a little extension cable that's been cut off, or a little surge protector cable, and I've got it going into a little box, and I've got a little hole cut out on each side so I can probe it with an oscilloscope. So I'm gonna go ahead and test the sine wave, and you can see right there, guys, nice and clean, just the way we like it. And that's with no load on it. Now, a lot of people don't know that on these watt meters, you know, you can do different functions, and this one here tells your voltage, and you can see right there that it says 111.2. It's at 60 hertz. That's perfectly fine right there. All right, guys, so I wanted to test the USB port on there before we go any further. I wanted to see if it's passive or if it's not passive. I'm gonna go ahead and plug these two lights up. I always show these in my videos because these are VT power lights, and they're on a splitter where you can put 2 into 1. There's the splitter right there, but you can get power to 2 of these lights with 1 USB plug. And anyways, these only use 5 watts of power each. And so you can see the inverter is turned on, but let's see if these still stay powered once the inverter's turned off. And there's your answer. Yep, it's passive, so the power goes through the inverter, and you know, this is pretty much just like being hooked up directly to the battery. There's no power from the inverter that's on at all. So, you know, this USB port right here, let's say you want to leave your phone plugged into this all night and let it charge, then you can do that. Let's say you want to run, you know, lights, you can do that. And one other feature about these lights is they're on, you know, a little switch where you can turn one off or on. But let's say you're doing off-grid or whatever, and you want to run some lights in your little off-grid cabin or setup, whatever you got, you can just use these. And like I said, 5 watts a piece, guys. That's pretty low consumption. and they put out a lot of light. I'll put them down in the description if you're interested in them, but I just wanted to check that USB port and show you those lights. Alright, so I also wanted to show you right here on this USB-C 3.0 power delivery port that I've got a little cable here, and it tells you the wattage. So when I plug it in, let's see here, there it goes. It says that it's fast charging, and right there it says 10 watts. If you made it this far, I appreciate you watching and sticking around and watching me test these inverters. And I'll just be honest with you, I don't work for any of these companies. Do they send me the inverter? Yes, they do. But you know, without them sending it to me, I could never afford to buy all these inverters. I mean, I've tested, you know, 30, 40 inverters. And so, you know, when these companies send me an inverter, you know, they better know that if they send it to me, I'm going to give an honest review. Now, I wanted to report to you, and you won't hear any other YouTubers say this, but one of the other inverters that I tested, I think it was a Mafuzop or something like that, they got pissed off at me, and they probably won't be sending me any more inverters, and that's fine. But I'll go ahead and tell you, they said that I made their inverter look, you know, crazy or whatever, and that, you know, I shouldn't have mentioned another inverter in my review. Well, let me tell you something. This is my damn review. I'm going to do it how I want, and it's going to be an honest review. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if you send me an inverter, you're going to get an honest review. There's going to be no padded reviews. I don't work for any of you people, and if that keeps me from getting some of the bigger ticket items like power stations and some of the other inverters, so be it. I don't care. There's plenty of others inverters out there. So anyways, we are going to test the hell out of this thing today. We're going to run it as high as we can. It's rated at 3,000 watts, and it has a peak wattage according to the user manual here. It says the peak power is 3,300 watts. So usually, you know, on these inverters, a lot of times might say it's a 2,000 watt inverter with a 4,000 peak. This one here doesn't. It says it's a 3,000 watt inverter with a 3,300 watt peak. So I like that. That seems more honest to me, doesn't it, you? So also, one thing I wanted to mention too here in the instructions, it says when the input DC voltage is lower than 20 volts, the product will shut down the AC output, and the light will light up red, and there will be a beeping alarm. And I know all about this because, you know, I have an inverter going in the other room there now, and when the voltage gets low, then that alarm will come on, and it'll make the nastiest sounding little beep you ever heard. And we hop up and go turn it off. But anyway, so we're going to do some testing here. We've got 2 watt meters plugged in. One's plugged in here, and it's plugged into the heater right there on the left. And then this watt meter is plugged into the heater on the right. And you can see this one's at 1.6 watts. And that's because, I guess, that bright LED right there. And then this one's at 0.4 watts. And there's a really dim LED right there. So that's they're pretty accurate for just a little cheap $10 watt meter. So if you're interested in knowing what kind of wattage certain devices are using, I'll put a link for these down in the description. There's a bunch of them on Amazon, but not all of them are made equal. I have used this brand since day one, and they have done me well. And they also have a reset button here in the middle. And a lot of times, and I've already done it for these, but you can mash that reset button, and it zeroes everything out. And then you can go back and you can recall the highest surge wattage. Right there, guys. 900 watts, 960, 1043, 1196, 1245, 13, 14. So guys, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, it's pretty hot in here already. So we're gonna have to do this pretty quick, because, you know, with all these lights in here, it does get hot in this room, and with the 2 space heaters going and a hot inverter, and then we might have to turn on a hair dryer too to get enough wattage to show you guys. So we're gonna try to do this as fast as possible. But right there, it's around 1,400 watts. I'm gonna set that down, and then right there's your wattage. It's at 0.4 watts. I'm gonna turn it on. 940, 1022, This one's still at 1380. My girlfriend's working the old calculator, trying to get us a rough estimate on the wattage, and I know they haven't settled completely down yet, but this one here is at 1383, and that's about where it's going to stay. It's been stable right there. So go ahead and punch in 1383 and 1236. That is a grand total of 2619 watts. Okay, so we need about 400 more watts, a little less than 400 watts, guys. Let's see. I guess we're gonna plug in this hair dryer right here. This one says right here 1236, and this one says 1379. I'm gonna turn it on fan, and then if I don't get enough wattage out of fan, which it's about 170 more watts, which I know it won't be 3000, but I'll probably turn it up to low heat, and it should put us close to there or maybe even over. So it's hard to get right at 3000 watts, guys. So let's see what we can get. We're at 1530 and 1233. For a grand total of 2763 watts. So that's still not enough, so I'm going to kick it up on low heat. So it's at 1793, and the other one's at 1232. So right there, that's over 3,000 watts. That's 3,025 watts. And I'm just going to let it run, boys. That's doing over the advertised power right there. So, you gotta say, these alpha inverters are built like a tank. We'll give it another minute, just let it run. Go ahead and, what's the total wattage right here again? Let's do 1796 and 1232. That's still 3,028 watts. So, still running strong. I'll set it, the hair dryer down right there. Okay, these new Concepts cables, nice and cool. They're a little bit warmer down there close to the terminal. But like I said, guys, I'm not going to run it for long. You can see this one's still at 1800 watts, right at 1802, back down to 1798. I'm actually going to turn this off. You can hear the fans chumming now. You can really hear the fans turning now. These things are whining. But the reason I went ahead and turned it off is it had already ran long enough. If it wasn't going to shut down by then it wasn't going to do it. But the other reason why I went ahead and turned it off is these little watt meters are only rated at 1800 watts. And I seen it jump up to a little over 1800 watts. So I was like, I better turn them off because I don't want to blow these up. That'd be $10. So anyways, you can hear this thing. It's still whining and running strong. All right, guys. So you seen me do the load test, and I got to say that the inverter seemed to handle it really well. It went over the 3,000 watts. But I went ahead and unplugged everything, and I thought, well, I didn't even comment on the fans. I went ahead and plugged both the heaters back up for just a second so the fans will kick back on, and you should hear them here in just a minute whenever they decide to turn on. But, you know, the fans on both the alpha inverters, they are a little bit faster, and they do sound like they're a little more higher pitched. So you're going to get a little noise out of these. They're not going to be quiet like some of them that have a larger fan that spins slower, and so you'll definitely notice that the fans are on because they do move quite a bit of air. And they should be kicking on here any second, and I'll let you get a close-up on how it sounds and kind of give you an idea, you know, if there's any kind of hot spots here on the inverter. But yeah, gotta say so far, very pleased with this inverter. And so I just wanted to use the thermal camera, give you guys a reading right here at the very edge. It's about 97 degrees. Right here in the middle, it's about 98.7. And then at the very end, it's 96.9 degrees. And again, the cables are really cool to the touch. Like I said, these New Concepts cables they're the way to go, guys. You know, I know there's other cables out there, but I just prefer these. These have always done me right, and the cables are just nice and cool. So, you know, if you're expecting complete silence, I don't think any of these inverters are silent. Some of the fans spin faster than others, and some of them are different diameter fans, and these look like they're pretty small, so, you know, I guess they're having to spin pretty quick. But I gotta say, you know, these are reliable inverters, and a lot of people like them, so I know I've enjoyed mine. So, alright guys, so that's a wrap. I really appreciate you guys watching to the very end, and you know, hope the video was informative to you. So again, I am an Amazon affiliate, and I've got the links for all the products down below, but I don't suggest something to you guys unless I would use it myself. Anyways, until next time guys, thanks for watching. See ya.